Hi, everyone. Welcome to Barry Gordy's Motown Moves Detroit and Beyond. What began as the dream of a young songwriter and entrepreneur would grow to signify the sound of Detroit and influence the world of music. This is by Amber Elder, Caitlin Ellsworth, Kiana Hargett, Kate Barvell, and Jesse Rose. At the beginning, we wanted to do a project on the whole of Motown, but quickly realized that we needed to focus our attention on one person, and that was Barry Gordy. And it started all in Detroit for Barry Gordy.
Barry Gordy was born to parents Barry Gordy Sr. II and Bertha Ida Fuller Gordy in 1929. Barry's grandpa, Barry Gordy I, was the son of Esther Johnson, a slave and her white plantation owner. Barry Gordy II moved their family from Georgia to Detroit during the Great Migration to the North in search of jobs. Barry Gordy III was the seventh of 8 children of Barry and Bertha. The family originally lived on the west side of Detroit at 5419 Roosevelt Street, in a dilapidated home that is now the site of the Etzel Ford Freeway. At age 6, the family moved to Farnsworth and St. Antoine on the east side of Detroit, where his father owned the Booker T. Washington grocery store and had little interest in working on the Motor City automotive assembly lines like other people who had migrated from the South. Gordy Sr. preferred to be a business owner.
Speaking of businesses, we have to contextualize everything with talking about Black Bottom and Paradise Valley neighborhood.
Contextualizing Barry Gordy's life without mention of Black Bottom and Paradise Valley neighborhoods leaves out the wider social and political landscape of Detroit. Black Bottom, named for its rich soil by French settlers, was home to not only Barry Gordy's parents' Booker T. Washington grocery store, but to Black-owned businesses, churches, and was considered the Black business district in Detroit. Black Bottom and Paradise Valley were the center of Black life in Detroit beginning in the 1900s and through the Great Migration. The Gordy's generational wealth was made in Black Bottom. Black Bottom and Paradise Valley fell victim to urban renewal and slum clearance. The dispersal of Black residents affects the Detroit landscape to this day. Black Bottom was the business district and Paradise Valley was the entertainment district. Black-owned nightclubs such as the Flame Show Bar, the Horseshoe Bar, and Club Harlem booked mixed-race audience and shows throughout the district. Throughout this tour, you will see and hear about several Black Bottom and Paradise Valley sites, including the Brewster Wheeler Recreation Center, Flame Show Bar, and Booker T. Washington grocery store.
Northeastern High School is where Barry Gordy went to school. Hated school. He hated school. Wasn't very good at reading. He decided that he was going to drop out at 16. He was more interested in gambling and making money. And so he really did spend a lot of his time in Black Bottom on Hastings Street, going into blues rooms, pool rooms, and bars. And he dabbled in writing music and played the piano. Brewster Wheeler Recreation Center is actually where Barry Gordy would go when he was pretending to go to school because he liked to box. And he was a professional featherweight boxer at 5'6", 112 pounds, called Killer Gordy. He won 12 out of 15 of his matches. He trained with Joe Louis. He enjoyed the nightlife and dabbled in songwriting, but he was definitely torn between music and boxing. But Uncle Sam enlisted him, and that kind of changed all of his plans in 1951. He became a chaplain's assistant in the Army, playing the organ during religious services. And Brewster Wheeler Recreation Center is located in Black Bottom. Brewster Douglas housing projects housed folks like Smokey Robinson, Mary Wilson, and Diana Ross. They were all in close proximity to each other because Black Bottom and Paradise Valley were destroyed, meaning that they could all grow up in very close proximity to each other. Flame Show Bar in Paradise Valley, after the war, Gordy came back and was hanging out in this club. It's also called Little Las Vegas. The Flame was an outlet for upscale Black entertainment. Both of his sisters, Gwen and Anna, worked there, and they were able to network with Black entertainers. He loved blues and jazz, and he opened a record store called the 3D Record Mart House of Jazz. Ford Lincoln Motor Plant. It's the Motor City. When Barry Gordy realized that the record store wasn't going to be his claim to fame, he started working at Ford's Rouge River Foundry. He didn't like that too much, and he moved to the assembly line in Warren because he didn't like the strenuous work. During this time on the assembly line, he had a great deal of thinking time. In his own words, he described how the idea of assembling hit after hit on a production line could look. Every day I watched how a bare metal frame rolling down the line would come off the other end, a spanking brand new car. What a great idea. Maybe I could do the same thing with my music, create a place where a kid off the street could walk in on one door, an unknown, go through a process and come out another door. This vision was for Hitsville, USA, and that was born. He would find stars, perfect their talents, polish them up, and send them off into the world of superstars. He would eventually call it Motown Records, paying homage to his time on the assembly line. United Sounds. Berry Gordy began recording music under Tamla. So before Motown's was Tamla, he wouldn't record there long because Hitsville, USA came to be on West Grand Boulevard. Started in 1961 with the start of a purchase of one home. He developed the Gordy Empire in Detroit Motors City Town Sound, Motown Sound. It became shorthand for businesses, Motown Records, Motown Sales, Joe Beat Publishing, and Stein and Van Stock Publishing. And Motown Records was composed of the Tamla, Gordy, Melody, Motown, VIP, Gordy Workshop, and Soul labels. Lots of stuff going on. Joe Beat Publishing was founded prior to the creation of Motown Records. He named it after three of his children, Joy, Barry, and Terry. Jesse will let you know a little bit more about Joe Beat in a little bit. Motown or Joe Bet, Motown Recording Studio, Studio A. This is where the magic happened. It's located in 2648 West Grand Boulevard. This is where the Motown Museum is housed now. You should absolutely go check it out. The Supremes who are pictured, Smokey Robinson, Martha and the Vandellas, Stevie Wonder, and literally every Motown artist use Studio A. And the sound is perfection, actually. Please go visit. Motown Artist Development. This is actually now a sorority house. Very interesting. Jesse will let you know about that in the next video.
Hi there, so I'm Jesse Rose, part of this project here, and here I am at the Motown Museum currently. And you can see how much they've done to the property here, but just want to take you back to when it was the Motown Row, fondly known as, back in the 1960s. So we have Hitsville, USA here, and next to it was Joe Bet Music. Some people pronounce it Joe Beat, but I guess they actually said Joe Bet back then. And then we have the offices of Berry Gordy as well, which would have been here, but right next door, no longer there. And then the next property would have been the Motown administration, followed by the finance department, sales and marketing further down, and way down past the photo booth there where it says Andy's Pharmacy, that was International Talent Management Incorporated. And then right across the street, directly from where we are, was the Artist Development, which is currently the Phi Delta sorority here in Detroit.
Thanks, Jesse. Fox Theater, very prominent in the center of Detroit. If you've been downtown, you absolutely know where it is. In the 60s, many Motown artists performed at the Fox. This photograph depicts the theater around that time. The Donovan Building. Kiana will give us a great history about the Donovan Building, but it became the original office building for Motown Records, but closed abruptly in 1972 when Motown moved to Los Angeles. Motown Mansion. This is a huge house in Boston Edison that Berry Gordy bought in 1967 on 2.2 acres of land. He would host luxurious red carpet events filled with stars like Stevie Wonder, Diana Ross, and Michael Jackson. The house is still standing. You can go see, I mean, it's in Boston Edison. You can go see it if you absolutely would like to. Here's an interview by Kiana.
On June 30th, I, Kiana Hargett, had the pleasure of interviewing Dr. Khalid El Hakim, the founder of the Black History Mobile 101 Museum. He is heavily involved in history teaching, spoken word, and the hip hop industry surrounding Detroit, Michigan, where he was born and raised. He often refers to himself as a Motown baby, seeing as he was surrounded by very heavily influential people like Stevie Wonder, Martha Reeves, and Dee Dee McNeil. As a child, watching Motown artists provided him with a sense of pride. Berry Gordy took young Black artists and dressed them formally as a response to how Americans seen African Americans in society. The music that Motown produced was a social and political activism to comment on the society that viewed African Americans as less. He started his museum in 1995 and now has collected over 10,000 artifacts. When I asked and inquired about how he received some of these artifacts, he actually informed me that the Donovan Building, which was the original Motown office, was never officially cleaned out after they moved to Los Angeles. And when the building was demolished in 2006, papers, flyers, sheet music went flying down the streets of Detroit and ended up in local pawn shops. He was able to purchase some of these things, along with a copy of Dr. Martin Luther King's March to Freedom that Berry Gordy recorded in June of 1963. This was the first time that Dr. King previewed his I Had a Dream speech before the March on Washington in August of 1963. Dr. El-Hakim was able to take the sounds of his childhood and learned how to build his own and create a brand for himself. He utilized what he learned and what he collected to give his students and those who visit his mobile museum a sense of pride, much like Berry Gordy did for him.
Thank you everyone for listening to our Berry Gordy's Motown's Move Detroit presentation. There are hidden gems throughout the whole presentation with videos and sound recordings. Please go check those out.